Okay, real talk for a minute. Do you feel like your movements are stiff and jerky? The number one thing that I get asked the most is how to smooth out my movement. And trust me, I have been there. Once upon a time, my movement was really stiff and I could not figure out how all of these great dancers were achieving the amazing fluidity that I was seeing. So all those drills that your teachers tell you to do will help you. But how you go about doing those drills will really elevate the way you move. So in this video, I'll share the one thing that has helped me smooth out my movement more than anything. And make sure you watch till the end because this trick will definitely transform your dance. I'm Mimi and I help dancers master movement and magnetism so that they can become their own muse. All right, so you've probably had a teacher at some point in time talk about textures. I used to be told to embody a texture when I was dancing by my teacher. So I would choose textures like honey, velvet, silk. But the problem was whenever I would think about those textures, it was all just kind of the same. Honey, butter, molasses, silk was literally just smooth. And so I had two types of movement. I had smooth and I had not smooth. For example, to me back then, the difference between honey and molasses used to just be the speed that I moved at. To me back then, the difference between honey and molasses used to just be the speed that I moved at. And yes, this is true, but there's also so much more to each of these textures that I wasn't embodying in the way I was moving. I'm about to tell you the trick that changed my movement. And I'll demo everything at the end so that you can actually understand it. And I'm telling you, this trick will really change the way you move, so do make sure you watch till the end. All right, first thing to do is pick a substance with a texture that you want to achieve. For example, honey. And then think about how it interacts with something like a surface. For example, how honey hits the wall of a cup when you tilt it. Or another example would be to think about how molasses hits the ground, how it expands into the floor. Another one that you might want to think about is how it feels to slide your finger along a buttered surface. But don't go away just yet. I'm going to show you what a difference this actually makes when you're dancing at the end with examples. But before I do, it is helpful to understand the science behind visualizations so that you can apply it to so many other things. Okay, we all know this, but visualizations are a powerful way to train movement. I've been using this since day one, and I feel like my progress is proof to how effective this can actually be. So visualizations changes how our brain networks are organized, creating more connection and priming the brain and body for action. So this is a concept that's been used by the sports world for years as a key element in training. And so the way it works is it stimulates brain regions involved in the rehearsal of movement, which then primes the body and brain for more effective execution. So here are some tips for using visualizations. First, visualization works best if you are already familiar with the subject. Kind of seems obvious, but it's good to know. Visualization plus movement is the most effective way to use it. So there are several ways you could do this. One is using a visualization right before you do an activity. So visualizing something right before you do a dance. Or you could do the visualization while you're doing the dance or activity. Another way you can do it, and something I used a lot, was actually doing the visualizations many times before you actually do it. And this kind of helps your brain create those connections so then when you actually do the activity, it'll be much more effective. So when you visualize skills that you've already learned, this will boost the speed and efficiency for which you can execute it again. And then lastly, and the most important point, is the clearer the visualization, the more effective it is. So I'll say this again. The clearer the visualization, the more effective it is. and let's get into this point. So we know that specific visualizations are better than just thinking about something, which is why instead of just thinking about a substance with a texture, I like to think about how that substance or texture interacts with something like a surface. I choose a surface because it's easier to relate back to pole dancing, because then I can think about how me, the substance, interacts with the surface, pole, or floor. So let's use the honey, molasses, and butter examples in this. Honey has like this very gooey quality that morphs. And so when you think about honey pouring out of a cup or sliding down a wall, you can kind of think about how that honey morphs into different shapes as it moves. And now when we think about molasses versus honey, molasses has a much more stuck quality about it. Something that like drags. There's like a higher tension in the molasses than in honey. And now you can see how your dance might be different when you're embodying honey versus when you're embodying molasses. And a third substance that is very similar to that smooth quality is butter. So thinking about how you would dance on a surface that's buttery. Okay, let me demonstrate what I mean. All right, now that you've seen these, let's break down each of these videos. In this first video, I'm embodying honey. So to me, when I imagine honey being poured out of a cup or being dripped on a wall, I'm thinking about how it morphs. There's this much looser quality to it, but it definitely morphs into these different shapes, especially in the transition. So if I think about honey, when it pours into a bowl, it's not just going into the bowl in the same shape, it's morphing into that surface. Now in this next video, I'm embodying molasses. And so you'll notice here that yes, my speed is slower than honey because molasses moves slower than honey. But you'll also notice that there's a much higher tension in the quality of my movement because molasses to me has this more like stuck quality where your movement is almost like dragging behind you. And now in this third video, I'm embodying butter. And I'm imagining what it's like to dance on a buttery surface. So it's very slippy, slidey, and I'm constantly in motion along the floor. Okay, I hope you found these tips helpful. Next time you dance, give it a go and let me know how it goes in the comments below. If this video inspired you in any way, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. If you want to work out to improve your movement quality, make sure to check out this video next.